where all our country presidents are concerned, the brand laureate country presidents of each respective area, are just waiting to take the whole thing and run. So it's all to you, Andrew, and Peter, and the rest of the team to get the whole work coming along.
Andrew, can you activate screen share, please?
Sorry?
Yep, I'll do that. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Recording too, please.
Now we can see Jim. All right, Peter, back to you.
Hi, well, thanks for that introduction. Yes, we're looking forward to getting moving. What we're going to do now, once we're going to bring Ted in to talk briefly about ATS and that side. He'll be doing a presentation. So that's why Andrew's activated the screen share for Ted. And once Ted starts talking, we'll start recording, won't we, Andrew?
Yep. All ready?
Okay. We're ready to go. It's good during presentations if people have their microphones on mute. You just have to remember to turn them back on. The only time you need to turn video off is if bandwidth starts to get a bit shallow. Okay, over to you, Ted. Ted's on mute. There we go.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Sure pleasure to meet you all. I've known Andrew. Andrew, we've known each other about 7 years, I think. Is that correct? I think.
Yes.
7 years.
Yep.
Basically, you know, I started the company about 40 years ago, and I started as a cost reduction company. It just me, myself, and I. It grew into a procurement solutions company. And then from there, we became a full solutions company. And so in front of you, obviously, Peter has all the presentation materials. I'm just going to go through a general presentation so you know what's behind you, not just in the US, not just in Canada, South America, Russia, Middle East, China. We work all over the world. And as you lead in with AI, and Rudy's going to go into that portion when I'm done, what you're going to have an opportunity to do is go into an organization that's 50 million in gross revenues or more and be able to have us be introduced. If they want to reduce their costs, and it's not just simple cost reduction, it's all kinds of different areas and arenas. It's from HR to insurance to benefits to steel to anything they spend money on, just as long as it's legal and there's enough spend. So we typically like to benchmark 50 million or more. We may drop that more as we build this out together, but we've been around for more than 30 years. We've served in over 150 nations. I noticed you're from Singapore there, Kevin. I've been to Singapore many times, a lovely place there. Been in Malaysia probably over 100 times. Been to many places many times. Our average, believe it or not, is over 28% cost reduction for companies like BP Oil, ExxonMobil, for the Singapore Health and Defense Division, for the Singapore government, for the Filipino government, for PTTEP, the largest telecom in the Philippines, and the list goes on. Tens of thousands of clients. And we do something that's unusual. We do something where we go in and we start real simple, thus the AI. So we get our shoe in with something that's totally unique, not only be able to reduce the cost on the AI with the digital ad spend of about 30% average, increase the profits, and that builds that trust, that builds that relationship. And then we go in and do what we call a no-cost assessment. It's a simple email introduction. Obviously, Peter and Andrew and the team will be managing that. And then we get on an exploratory call. And during that exploratory call, we have a survey form filled out because each company is completely different. They have different needs. But when you look at everything from a holistic standpoint, you'll find the two most important parts are what? Getting clients. That's our AI marketing that Rudy's going to go into. And cost. That's number 2 in the world. Biggest concern. We handle all that. we go in, again, into anything where there's enough spend and it's legal. So we have a global team of many experts, the who's who. We did a testimonial. In fact, I believe the team sent that out to you this morning, Andrew and Peter. You wouldn't mind sharing that with your team. We do things without charging a penny until we perform. So we do what the big 8 does. Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Grant Thornton, IBM, Xerox, etc. Except we're not asking for retainer, and we're not charging $300 to $500 an hour. And when we do the work, it's not junior consultants. These are senior level people. It's all our own systems, our own processes, our own procurement, our own in-the-house methodologies that we developed over 40 years ago. We have many, many, many case studies. And then Peter and Andrew, obviously the team will, use whatever's necessary, so that you all have what you need. And we probably have about 10,000 affiliates, partners, experts all over the world. Obviously, we like to keep things very simple, thus the AI, because that is the #1 thing out there, getting clients, keeping them, growing your clientele. As you can see, we work with many companies. This is just a small smattering. In the core folder, I'll quickly go through that in a minute. You'll see like Petronos, we did procurement fraud for them. We did procurement strategy for them. We trained some of their upper executives. Several things there in Kuala Lumpur a number of times. We work in all industries. Doesn't matter what it is, just as long as it's legal and again, enough spend. And our benchmark is we really like to start with a company of 50 million gross revenues and more. Again, we can talk about that as we build out. The three buckets, the business growth, that's really what Rudy's bringing in, and above the standard. Rudy developed the technology over the last 15 years. He owns it from the ground up, and Rudy is just a phenomenal part of ATS. So this covers the business growth, and obviously there's other things we do with that as we build out clients, but we always start simple with AI marketing, and Rudy in an appointment. The profit solutions. As we start, like for example, the Malaysian government, we worked in 4 of their divisions to help streamline their cost reductions because they started going through some hard times, with oil and gas there a number of years ago. We helped streamline their processes and best practices. And what that did is it helped us shoe in the strategy. It helped us shoe in to other things to help them and their supply chain. And then efficiency, we helped redesign teams and even how to do meetings that are effective because most companies don't know how to do that. Then obviously the cost reduction, it's not just sheerly a cost reduction where we look at an invoice and we go, we can reduce that 15%. We go into the full arena of procurement where we are able to do things that most other companies aren't doing, like BP Oil. We save mass amounts, over $200 million for their company in the Americas in less than a year. And they have thousands of procurement people. Lafarge Holcim, one of the largest cement companies in the world in over 130 countries. We reduced their costs in the US, starting with just office supplies, and we reduced their costs by over $252 million in the US. So we do things that a lot of the companies just aren't doing. They're not doing it. They don't have the overhead. They don't have the know-how. They can't pay a CPO $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year and have all the teams. So we go into companies and we act as their team, starting real simple in one area like the AI marketing, and then we infiltrate the whole company and relationship and build it over years and decades. So one good client can literally be worth well over $1 million a year in commissions, easily, the right kind of client. So this is why, in a general nutshell, companies come to us. Obviously not enough clients. They need custom solutions. Our processes will fit all companies, but we go in and we mirror and maximize and customize to their culture. We work with small to large. Obviously with the coronavirus and all that's going on, companies have had to learn real quickly how to do virtual. We're a pioneer in the industry, been doing it over 30 years. Compliance and regulation, by the way, as you see right here, is the third most in demand area. In all of our processes, we create compliance and regulation. It's some of the best in the world. That's why the fraud unit of the Singapore government came to us and asked for us to do what we did for the US government in the procurement process and the fraud department. We reduce costs, and it's not just hard costs, it's soft costs, transactional costs, cost avoidance, it's all kinds of areas, but we keep it real simple. So what we do is we partner with the client, real simple, an introduction, yes, we want to reduce costs. It's performance-based. They're 50 million or more gross revenues per year. And then we go into the AI with Rudy. Great. Then we get into all the areas as a holistic approach, starting with one simple little area, low-hanging fruits with our survey form, which I'll show you in just a moment here. And then we have a win-win-win. You win, they win, we win, and obviously many other people win. So we do a team exploratory call, survey form. We decide what's the best targets, then who's going to be on the team, and we start with one area. We don't go into complex, we go simple. Performance driven in most cases. We get the win the trust, and that's really who we are. And so in a nutshell, this is our partner folder. Hopefully you can see this. This is a next steps, real simple. This is when if somebody says we don't want the AI, we're not interested, you know, we don't need it, whatever it is, or it's the wrong timing, this one pager, which I believe Peter and Andrew have, outlines exactly what to do, what to say, and obviously you'll get the hang of it in the US, 1 million or more, outside of the US, 50 million or more, and it just gives you a little script. So we keep it so simple, and then when they say, yeah, interested, introduce to our team. Here's Fred Jones, here's Mohammed, here's Andrew, whomever it is, they have a company, here's their website, they do 59 million per year gross revenues. We respond, we send out our survey form, they fill it out, calendar invite, we get on a call, and then we dig deeper and we start by relationship. We're relationship driven all the way. This is our AI, so simple. And this is from testing in the marketplace all over the world. One pager. This is what you'll be leading in with. And as Rudy will go into a little bit, one client can literally change your whole team's lives. It can change all the generations come just with one large client, literally. And so this is in there as well, and Rudy will go through that, so I won't steal his fire there. This is the presentation we just went through. This is our global solutions, so it's kind of a repeat of those three bucket areas, who we are, some of the general presentations, but it's kind of some of the same stuff. This is our global client list. So when somebody says, well, who are you? Been around for over 42 years. Have a mammoth amount of client case studies. Just in our folder 44, we have over 100 case studies. You'll notice some of these names in here. Bloom Asia, Blue Star Ltd, BP Petronas. We worked in their joint venture there, Bristol Myers Squibb. You'll see Carla Gali Operating Company out of Malaysia. We've done all kinds of work from training to strategy to cost reduction to streamlining. We've worked with some of the large oil and gases and all kinds of companies. Remember, keep in mind, worked in most industries across the globe. You want to increase your profits? Great. You do 30,000 or more a month in digital ad spend? Great. Average save 30%. Would you like a phone call? Great. Write to Rudy and team. They get on a call, and then we go into our cost reduction. They say no. Would you like to reduce your costs? Yes. Great. 20% average. We saved over $213 billion in the last 42 years. Most of it's performance-based. Dyno Nobel, that's out of Australia. You probably know them. That's a $4 billion company, the largest explosives company in the world. So you can see lots of names there, all kinds of stuff. This is a general case studies. It shows you again just some of the things we've done. And keep in mind, these are companies with some of the best shared services departments in the world. And we come in and we go above and beyond, and we don't jeopardize relationships. We help them, we support them. We come beneath them to say, we want to help you shared services, procurement, finance, We want to make you shine. And that's exactly what we do. So that is above the standard in a nutshell. I hope that makes sense. And one last thing, this is our survey form. So when, like, if you're doing the AI and they go, gosh, Andrew, that sounds great. Not right now. What do you send next? Real simple, our survey form. You can send it or you introduce us. Simple. They fill it out, their organization, how'd you hear about us? And obviously, I know Peter, you and Andrew and your team are discussing how to streamline contracts and forms. But really simply put, it gives an outline of what can be done, where at, the minimums. We would like to see them fill this out. If they don't, we'll ask them to fill it out. Then we send the counter invite, because we may find that we need Rudy on the call. We need Erwin on the call. Jim may need to be on the call for operations. We may need our CPO, our Chief Procurement Officer, on the call. We may need our head of shipping, our head of merchant services. We may need other people, so that we're not just kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall. We're very targeted, very, very client services oriented relationship. So that is everything, Andrew. Did I cover enough? Did it make sense? Is there anything else you want me to cover?
I think that is a good summary of ATS. I'm sure at the end of the session, Peter would open up for Q&A. I'll leave it to you, Peter. How would you like to run it? Do you like to take questions as we go?
No, I think that we can run the Q&A at the finish. The important thing is to give Rudy time to do his presentation. You know, we have about an hour left, because this is a stop at 11 o'clock my time, which is just over an hour your time. Ted, that was a wonderful presentation. I understood it all, and I hope everybody else did. And it gives a good idea of what it has to be. And the key thing from our end is that once we have this process of bringing the people who we believe can benefit from the ATS services, then we are actually handing over to your team as much as anything to be able to do all the work, or a lot of the bulk of the work. And that suits us. We just need to have enough knowledge and information to be able to get those people to the table, so to speak. So wonderful. Excellent.
And Peter, as you're sharing that, just keep in mind, everybody, that as we lead in with the AI marketing, it is amazing. We have a gentleman who I've known for about 8 years, and they're going to have a call with Rudy, and they do about $50,000 a month ad spend. And that can change somebody's life because it's recurring income. That means that you as a team are going to earn that recurring income ongoing. Even if we're billing 40 years from now, you're getting that payment. The other thing too is this, as Peter and Andrew are organizing the funnel in your company that you've put together, it's real simple. Keep it simple. I call it KISS, keep it simple servant, meaning that if somebody wants to reduce that cost in the AI, it fits a 30,000 digital ad spend. They do that. What's neat is then you come back in 2, 3, 4 months from now, and they're going, thank you guys, you helped us. Because our retention rate is like 96%. Rudy will go over that in just a moment. Then we go into hundreds, maybe thousands there. If it's a Fortune company, I mean, that could be 40 years worth of billables, not only to you, but to your kids, the next generations to come. So remember, this is multiple streams of income. And when we do procurement, we even outsource sales. We outsource the marketing. We outsource anything where there's spend. Even we've done major bidding process for the U.S. government for like $1 billion for medical doctors. I mean, just things you would never think of. So I'm just leaving that for you to understand. There's a lot here. So Rudy, over to you, my friend. I am going to stop sharing here, and I'm sorry I took too much time, but I think it's now your share, right, Rudy? Can you get in there?
Thank you, Ted. And Rudy, when you do your presentation, I have a small request. Can you put it on full screen presentation mode, please? Back to you, Rudy de la Garza. And I'm sure this is the first time you see so many nations before your eyes, Rudy. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Peter and Kieran, for hosting this meeting with us and allowing us to come into your office space or your living room these days, it might be. I'm just grateful to have this opportunity. And you're absolutely right, Andrew. I'm one of those Americans that has never left the country. So it is through you that I will be understanding more about your culture and understanding about your country. And as I've told Andrew before, this is something very special to me because reading about it in books and seeing things on the internet are very different than hearing directly from the people. And so I look forward to learning more about you and supporting you in everything that we're doing here. So with that said, I'll move into sharing my screen to talk about Mydentify. Mydentify is the ATSAI solution. And this is a brand new presentation. I made this specifically for the work with this group now that we're calling ASAP. And I'm just going to go over this very quickly because I believe this will help you understand what we do. As Ted mentioned, this product is for companies that perform or do digital advertising mainly in Google Ads and Facebook ads, but we have 5 other platforms that we work with, and I'll get into that as well. But first things first, we did something using AI and machine learning rules that are focused on just one thing. It's focused just one thing, increasing conversions. And by way of doing that, because of what you're going to see here in a couple of minutes, it also decreases ad cost at the same time. So there is something very special here that I look forward to getting across to you, and you will have this presentation to help you speak to this product with your clients and prospects. So this sentence right here on this page is something I probably say 7 times a day, and that is that we reduce the cost of clicks, leads, and customer acquisition while increasing your audience efficiency. We do this, there's a saying here in America, we call it separate the wheat from the chaff. And of course, that's an agricultural saying. It means that we will keep what's good and throw away what we don't need. And what that boils down to is this: we are able to use our machine learning rules to detect behavioral and consumer signaling. And I'll get into one detail here, but I'll say it simply. We know who people are, and we know who are not people. The ones that are visiting your websites, the ones that are visiting your clients' websites. There are people that are coming, of course, but then there are also bots. And our technology is able to separate those two. We do that specifically for the second item that you see here so that we can identify which people are actually ready to perform the conversion action that our clients want. It could be a subscription to a service. It could be an e-commerce purchase. It could be a lead form for a business-to-business conversion event. It doesn't matter to our technology. We identify the people that are ready to convert, and here's where the power is. Our technology informs the digital campaigns, the Google ads, the Facebook ad campaigns. It pushes these people into the existing campaigns so that you're only delivering ads to the people that are ready to convert. That right there increases conversions and decreases ad costs because you're not delivering ads to people who aren't ready. Okay, so then we'll have plenty of Q&A after this, and I'll get through this pretty quickly, but I can't leave this slide without telling you about the fraud and bot protection. There is a saddening amount of nefarious bot traffic out there and what's called click fraud. And Google and Facebook are happy to sell it to you every day. So what we're able to do is identify what is a bot, a robot, and what is what is otherwise not able to perform the conversion event for the clients. And we immediately push those bots into exclude files that are in the campaigns themselves. So Google ad campaigns and Facebook ad campaigns, they have areas where you can exclude entities, you can exclude things that you don't want your ads to be sent to. Well, we automatically push the bots into those exclude files so that you never spend on those bots again. This right here can save companies thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month because so much money is wasted on click fraud and bots. So let me get into a little bit more detail about what we're doing when we identify people that are in this particular funnel, we call it. We call it you're in funnel, which means you're ready to make the purchase, and you're actually right on the verge of making the purchase, but for some reason you don't. Every moment that our technology is on the website, we are categorizing the people. Actually, I'm sorry, we're categorizing all the traffic into one of 4 buckets. You're either hot, you're warm, you're cold, or you're a bot. And so by categorizing all of the visits this way, we're automatically determining who a person is, we're automatically determining who a bot is, and we use this to perform continuous audience optimization and grow that audience over time. You have a potential for unlimited audience combinations. I say potential because the only limitation for a company that's using our service is their ad budget. So they're only limited by the amount of money that they're able to spend or how much they can consume or whatever their capacity is, because we're able to identify people that are ready to convert. And of course, here in America and in Europe, they are very concerned about privacy. So everything you've heard here today is fully GDPR compliant and fully CCPA compliant. Everybody knows GDPR, I believe. That's the General Data Protection Regulation. That's for the Eurozone. And in America, the law that one state out of the 50 states has is California, and that's the California Consumer Protection Act. Our proprietary technology is able to do everything that you've heard so far without touching the personally identifiable information of every user. We do it anonymously, and that's why we're special here in the United States and why people really like our technology. What this means for the companies that you will be interfacing with is real simple: less work and more money for them. We built this for the internal digital marketing teams of large companies, medium-sized companies. Whatever companies are spending $30,000 or more per month in digital ad spend can leverage this technology. So we lower their workload because this automation makes their campaigns just sing a beautiful song of revenue. And Midentify is completely transparent and can be a secret weapon for a company. This type of technology right now is still very new, even here in the United States. So as we move this out to Asia Pacific, you can know with confidence that you're entering that conversation with your friends at that company. You're entering that conversation with something they've never seen, haven't used, and can have an advantage with. It, of course, lowers costs. Using these audiences lowers the cost of leads, clicks, and customer acquisition. And of course, it works with existing campaigns. In fact, that's what we really like to do. During the first 90 days, we like to do a proof of concept, and we basically make a copy of their best performing campaigns. And we say, hey, let's just see how this works using your campaigns. And then we'll also make a copy of that, and we'll put our technology in our copy, and let's see who wins over the next 60 to 90 days. I'll tell you the end of the movie. We win every time. And it's not boastful to say, but the machine learning rules are able to make consistent decisions that are based on very actionable and real-time behavior. Our trainings with our AI are up to 92%. And all that means is that they make the best decision 92% of the time. So this is a very powerful, powerful technology, and I think you're going to love this part even better. For the companies that have a very typical setup for their digital campaigns, companies can be onboarded with this technology in less than 15 minutes. And here's how. All we do is we share our Google account with the client, and all they have to do is share access to their Google Tag Manager, their Google Analytics, and their Google Ads. And within seconds of that happening, We are already onboarded. Our pixel is on every page of their site and already begins learning the behavior of the traffic that's going through it. We also give them our business ID for Facebook, and we ask them to make us a partner in their Facebook Business Manager account. And within 15 minutes of doing that, we also have the campaigns running in Facebook at the same time. So you're talking about, for companies that have a very typical setup, not all companies have a typical setup, but for those that are using these very common tools, 15 minutes to get onboarded. And here's the best part. We like to use Google Ads and Facebook ads for the first 90-day proof of concept. And then after the companies get into a long-term agreement with us, we open up Snapchat, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Microsoft Advertising Bing, TikTok, and Quora. And when we add multiple platforms, it increases conversion 300 to 400% every time you add a new platform. So I want to stop there. There's another slide where we can talk about pricing and how you'll price it in the market. I think that deserves its own conversation, especially together on how we want to place that and how Andrew and Peter give us direction on that. But that is what Mydentify is, and the simplicity of it, but the power of it are also, both of those are just very interesting concepts for companies, and the adoption rate of this service is very, very high. I look forward to all of your questions, and thank you for your time.
Rudy, that was a very powerful.
Rudy, could you give them an example of that technology by any chance?
Well, we could. Let's see what we have here. Let's see.
Yeah, the last 2 pages.
I'm sorry. What were you expecting, Jim?
Just the last 2 pages of the prior presentation. Is that possible?
I don't have that one up right now. No, this is, we wanted to, kind of just get the value propositions over to you guys today and answer your questions.
Okay.
Rudy, can you mention a little bit about the third-party cookies, the latest development over your site, which probably would be very useful for the Asian group?
Yeah, absolutely. So third-party cookies. There was a very, very good change for us starting on January 14th of this year. Third-party cookies, and you've probably all heard that concept. If you don't, it's third-party cookies were the mechanism that most companies used for tracking people on the internet. And you would pick those up as you browse the internet, as you go to different websites. Websites would attach a cookie to you, and it would attach to your browser so that everywhere you moved around the internet, different websites could see where you came from, and the websites that you went back to would know you were there yesterday, all those good things. And that was the currency of how how people were tracked for the last 10, maybe even 15 years, cookies. So what's changed though, is that Google Chrome announced in January of this year that they no longer support third-party cookies. And that changed the landscape for a lot of companies. So a lot of the companies that you probably know and will interface with were using some form of tracking that included third-party cookies. And so now that Google and Apple have both dropped their support for third-party cookies, all of those tracking mechanisms are broken. And the way to now use this or to get by in the world, to be able to understand who your traffic is and to be able to track everything that's happening on your website and use it to your advantage, now requires technology such as ours. We leverage what's called identity resolution to do that.
Rudy, that presentation was thorough, and I think people might be a bit reluctant to ask questions at this point in time, but there should be lots in there to be able to ask. about how things work. But I think you covered it so well that people are trying to go more deeply. But we do throw it open to the floor to people ask questions. We normally get Kieran and Paul and Kevin are the big question askers in our group. So please fire away. That's why we have Rudy here to gain more information.
I thought it was really clear, and having spoken to Rudy before, I think that's actually cleared it up even from last time we spoke. I think that's been really helpful. Also, Jim's presentation has helped a lot. I don't have a whole lot of questions. I think there will be a discussion sans ATS and Rudy, in that we'll probably need to have that discussion around pricing, where that fits, what we want to do, and probably the approach to market from our end. I personally, I will probably come back to you guys and ask for maybe some more specific industry areas, because I think one of the things we'll do is probably go to some kind of low-hanging fruit industries, and like banking and finance or insurance or something like that, to say, what are some really specific examples in those areas that we can go and show someone and say, we've done this, they've done this for other people, and get that foot in the door and really kind of push them your way to kind of point out the difference, I suppose, of your tech versus other people that are making similar promises around save money, increase profits. No, but I don't have any personally. Again, back to the guys.
Kieran, this is Ted. Would it be helpful? I think we shared 27058. There's like 10 case studies in there. Would that be helpful to reshare? I think you have that. Do you have that, Kieran?
Yeah,
no?
I do. I absolutely have a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
I've just got to go through that, find out what we're looking for in the different countries, what's going to work best, because again, where we're kind of, how we're getting into each of those markets is going to change slightly. So I will be kind of manipulating your presentations and putting it amongst another one. Obviously, anything that has your wording, your brands in it, I will send back to you guys for approval. But I'll need to kind of have a bit of a play around after a conversation post this meeting.
Perfect. I think if you kind of talk with your team, and you talk about, you always look at warm market, people you've known. That's always the best market. And you put together a list, you can send that to all of us, to Erwin, to Rudy, to myself, Jim, and we can then kind of prioritize. Obviously with the ATS, we work in most industries. Obviously nonprofits a tough one. Governments are tough, especially now.
Long period of working with them.
And colleges or universities, and the reason why is they're trying to fix things by doing 1980s methodologies, and they're not willing to change in most cases. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to step on any toes, but that's the reality. So your best bet, and I don't want to speak for Rudy, but best bet is usually B2B, and Rudy can then respond because they've done something. He has a client with a mortgage outfit that's like, wow. And they saw this, and Rudy, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but they're going to go for the whole enchilada. And when a company does that, my gosh, that's worth huge amounts of money. And because once they're on it, they don't want off on it because it changes their whole business forever. It's just amazing. And then, so with Rudy, he can respond. And then with us, we'll just say, probably the best thing to do, unless you really know the people like incredibly well, stay away from nonprofits and governments and colleges and universities, unless you know them really, really, really good. So Rudy, did you want to add anything to that?
I did. Thank you so much for that. I will say I haven't had too much experience, of course, running digital campaigns for any governments, but the great thing about Midentify is that it works anywhere Google and Facebook operate. And of course, that's why we're looking for companies that are spending more than $30,000 per month. for colleges and universities, we've actually had a very good experience with that. In fact, just last night we signed study.com, which is a big outfit here in the United States, a for-profit. They give mostly online classes for you to, like say you want to learn calculus. Well, they give you a course on Calculus 101. And the interesting part is this company, study.com, gets 40 million visitors per month to their website.
Wow.
And
wow.
It's a lot. That's a good whale there. And here's the best part. They get so much traffic that to do the 90-day proof of concept with us, we had to sell them just a section. We said, hey, just pick a section. And the only reason why I know Calculus 101 is because that's the section they chose. They said, yes, we want to sell more Calculus 101 subscriptions. They're a subscription model. They get people to take the class for free for 30 days, and then 30 days later, they want them to buy, $50 or $90 or whatever it is for the class. And we got them on a proof of concept for a good amount of money, but still to them, a very reasonable amount of money per month for applying our technology to just 2 million visitors of their site because they wanted to try it out. And within 60 days, we're going to be doing so well that they're going to roll this out to the rest of their courses that they want to do well in. So this is one of those things where, for us, the category from Identify, the category almost doesn't matter. If you're able to run ads in Google and in Facebook and you have the monthly spend, this technology is agnostic and doesn't care.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Ted,
government, by the way, but go ahead.
Ted, I think Andrew also real quick wanted me to talk a little bit about the income opportunity. And as you go in there with Rudy's solution, as you've got, a lot of you have relationships currently with these companies. And so as you go in there and find out if they do have the 30K in digital ad spend, if they do, it's very easy. Let's say if they have 50,000 in digital ad spend, you could say, well, we'll take 40,000 of that. You would give 10,000 of that to us, and we will do 25 to 75% better than you were currently doing with that 50K with our 40K. And in a lot of cases, it's 200 to 300. If they don't have that digital ad spend, then you move over to the other solutions that Above the Standard has. And it's just, as Ted said, it's 2,000 plus areas for a larger company. And the income on that can be huge, both for licensing deals with Rudy's Tech and then also with ATS. And they're all reoccurring revenue. That's the beauty of this. So it's just.
Yeah, that's good, Jim. I will say this with the numbers that I run with Rudy and everything. And again, I want to be very conservative here, but the right kind of client, larger, can literally be well over $1 million a year to Andrew, Peter, and the company there for just one person, just for the digital part. For our average, I'll give you an example for what we call a small mid company in the U.S., 40 to 50 million gross revenues. Over 10 years at 10%, because we pay a little bit different, like procurement cost reduction work is a lot of money. It takes a lot of in-house stuff. At 10%, that would pay, let's say Andrew brought us that client, it's a $42 million company. This is an example of the YWCA of Greater Los Angeles. We worked with them for over 13 years. We started with a fraud audit, and then we went through, they have B2B, they're a federal contractor, a government contractor, state, city, nonprofit as well. Very complex, and we started with just an audit. That led into almost 400 projects so far. And over the last 13 years, Andrew, you would have made almost $50,000 a year just from that one little client. And that's a small client. And so when you get into the bigger ones, you just do the math. It's astronomical. So like what just Rudy said, though, keeping it simple, leading with the AI, I'm just telling you governments, because I've been involved with many governments around the world, from Saudi Arabia to Dubai to Singapore, Malaysia, to the Filipino government, some stuff with the Chinese government and other things. I will tell you, they're spending way more money now on really solutions. And what Rudy brings to the table and to the team will work incredibly well for governments. And they're in big trouble right now to systematize, and this does that. So like Rudy said, this can work with anything where there's enough spend within those categories. So, but back to you, Andrew and Peter.
Well, thank you for that insights and what Jim has just said. Well, today, as Rudy rightfully say, is just to discuss the value proposition. Our team is very keen to know the mechanics as well of how things operate. And this next couple of days, especially, I know Kieran is working round the clock with Peter to consolidate and recap everything that is said and reproduce in a form that really is digestible for the Asian group out there in Asia Pacific. So we need to really localize a lot of those things that you have said and pick up those things that we know is the market sentiments right in Asia Pacific. Now, in doing so, obviously, what you said is so vital and important, and every information you send, I believe now, I've seen a couple of Kieran's draft, and he's really revamping everything by the hour. So by next week, the whole team would have got a condensed version, and perhaps with the brand laureate head office, they're also helping us to redesign some of these things as well, which we are very grateful for their contribution to this. So a lot of the procedure structure, Peter is really realigning everything back to what is applicable in our area. So that is good. Now, Jim and Ted, you did mention as well as there's 400 to 1,000 over projects and solutions. Perhaps one of you could just give us a little understanding of what is 400, 1,000 or 1,000 over projects that we can go into. And then
Ted, you want to go into that?
Yeah, I'll do that. Great question, Andrew. Real simple. It starts with our survey form, which was in the core folder there. And when we start with that, like Lafarge Holcim had problems all over the place. They were decentralized, problems with shared services. They had over 300 locations just in the US. They had about 70 in Canada. And in South America, they had about 200. They had over 300 procurement people. They were 270 days late in pay. And this goes on a lot more than people even know. So it was in a fear-based kind of environment. People hated working there. And so what we did is we started real simple in one region with office supplies. And we did a full bid for that to win gains. So we built that trust. All the regional presidents heard about it. And then we did a whole Americas bid that saved them $27.3 million just in office supplies for each year for over 3 years. Did it all electronically so you could authorize it for one place, and we were paid performance, means we didn't get paid until we performed. That took about 90 days with 2 of our people full time. So there was about 700 hours in that project in-house. So with office supplies, what we do is we go through, and I'm going to share a screen. When we go through, and this is in the core folder, and I believe, Peter, you and Andrew have that. Right in here, I'm going to share a screen so you can see this. What this means is when we start with something that's low-hanging fruit. So it's simple, it's easy. They may say, we want you to start with fuel and gas. Well, that can be very difficult. And we say no. So two-way radios. Look at how much we save.
Could you expand your screen, please?
Then yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. And then like a oscillograph, it's an earthquake measurement equipment. We did that for high rises in LA City and Los Angeles. Acquisition, we helped a company acquire through the procurement process other subsidiaries and we reduced their costs 37%. Audit services. This is for a consultancy firm, and they were outsourcing their audit to one of the big 8. So we went to bid and we saved them 7% on that cost. Benefits, payroll. We don't just go out and use a partner. We are the one in charge with the client. So we go out to bid. So when we go in with that no cost assessment, again, we start real simple, like the AI. Rudy does his work with the AI team and ATS, and it goes well. And then we say, great job. We then do a deeper dive. We take all their general ledger, anything they're spending money on, we get their general ledger code, like office supplies and how much they spend over 12 months. Then steel, and then their overhead, and then payroll, benefits, cell phone, whatever, chemicals. I mean, the list goes on and on. You see the real numbers, copiers. And then we go into a serious bid where we write the RFP, we write the proposal, we do it all. We go to their current suppliers, and we have probably over 10,000 of our own suppliers and partners in our database that are partners with us. And we go to a bidding situation, and it isn't just lowest cost. It's best value, best warranty, maintenance, support, whatever it is. There could be 50 to 100 different things that are important to that client. And then we go to town doing that. So we do each bid separately like that. So like the Farge Wholesome, when we did their explosives, we did it for all their quarries worldwide. It took us 1.5 years to do that bid. It took about 3,000 hours of our people to do it, literally. But what we saved them was mammoth. It was in the tens of millions of dollars savings. We did it for Caterpillar. We were the first ever to do it almost 20 years ago. We bidded a Caterpillar for Farge Wholesome globally, and we broke it all out with equipment, lease, maintenance, new parts, old parts, reselling equipment, the whole 9 yards. We're the first to ever do that with Caterpillar. We saved over $111 million for the Farge Wholesome in just 1 year. So very intense, but we start simple. Then the client doesn't have to hardly do any work. All we do is get their data dump in those 3 categories for everything they're spending money on. So you can see when we talk about procurement, it's everything where money is spent and resources are driven. Anything, just as long as it's legal, fuel costs, furniture, golf carts, heavy equipment, linens, IT staffing, medical doctors. We've done nurses. We've done a whole slew for dentists where we bid it out to the Department of Defense and Department of Labor. Marketing, we reduced costs 11% for this client, which is a lot of money. So does that answer your question, Andrew? We start simple with one area, go in there, build the trust relationship like the AI digital, and then we then ask on a call, we go into a data dump, we look at everything, we go for the lowest hanging fruit, and then we go into other areas slowly, surely, and you can see all the different areas with what we've done. Does that make sense, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that is good. I believe that was really a very good exemplary project that you have mentioned. I believe you have definitely covered this very well. So what I'll do now is just open up for other areas.
Andrew, can I add one more thing with that?
Yeah, sure, Jim.
Just so you know, and outside the United States, you're going to be looking for 15 or more million revenue companies. For that size company, we can go into 300 to 500 areas. For a very large company, that's where we can go into 2,000 plus areas. If you're dealing with United States companies, it's $1 million or more revenue. We can only go into about 10, 12 areas. But for, again, 50 million, it's 300 to 500 areas. So it's significant. You can be in there for a long time, for decades, with 300 to 500 areas.
Sure. I believe
Thanks, Jim.
This is a very good area of consideration for us. Excluding Singapore and Australia, I think there isn't much of a problem with the currency. Singapore dollar and Australian dollar is probably about 72 cents to the US dollar. But I'm a bit concerned for developing countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, because the currency there is literally many times a dollar to their currency. And really comparing apple with apple, $1 you spend there is $1 they spend in their country. So I really got some questions from the presidents about this. And what we can do is to collect back feedback for you to really see where we can position ATS to. I understand your logic. I'm in favor of it, Ted and Jim. And the bigger company we go for is obviously the correct choice, because that is a spin-off of a higher ROI for everyone involved as well. The only thing we need to do is to open up for other presidents to view, because a 50,000 US dollars spent on the digital marketing, it's already about 4 times, which is 200,000 ringgit. So will we be able to look for only a certain cream of the crop, so to speak? Are we only going for the icing of the cake, where only X number of companies can do that? I know, Jim, you have mentioned if they don't have 50,000 ad spend, another criteria to look on is they have very, very high traffic. Perhaps you can give us a little more explanation of the high traffic thing, because originally we are talking about hoping to get about 20,000 expand, but then obviously that might fall short of your expectation of a realistic market in Asia. So let's do a bit of juggling and balancing this morning. To wrap up.
Sure.
Rudy, do you
Well,
want to take that?
I think what I'd like to add to that, Andrew, just for everybody, is keeping it real simple. So you lead in with a digital ad spend. Do they have 30,000 or more, like Rudy was sharing? And we are more than willing. We don't do this in any other cases, but I will tell you, for example, let's say it's a steel company. I'm just going to pick that out. They manufacture steel, and let's say they're spending 35,000 a month on digital ad spend, because that's how they get their clients. So you go in there, and let's say they're a 10 million gross revenue company. They may need to have sourced the elements that go into that steel, and maybe that one area of the stuff that goes in the steel, let's say one product costs them $1 million a year. That can be bidded out. That's a big enough spend. So we are not stuck on 50 million gross revenues. We don't want you to tell anybody else that we're doing this, but digital ad spend, lead in, even for a 10 million gross revenue company, we can still do some things internationally. Some of our international leaders can do some pretty phenomenal stuff. So we are open to that, Andrew. It's not hardcore 50 million gross revenues. For all of ATS, yes, but for you, Andrew, and your group, because I know you so well and you're a friend, and we know each other very well, I know this is built on solid rock, and we're going to do well together. So I hope that helps a little bit.
I think that's perfect, Ted. And Rudy, I think Andrew was also talking about the high traffic for instead of 30, 35K in digital ad spend. What if they have high traffic on their website? Could you, Ted made great points, but could you elaborate on that part, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I can only imagine what it's like for all of you on this call to have the conversation shift from digital to physical world, and where this conversation is kind of, as Andrew said, it's flip-flopping between two different large opportunities here. So speaking again about the digital side of things, to Andrew's question, is that we have also helped companies that maybe do not have the level of digital ad spend of 30,000 per month or more, but what they do have is they have a large amount of traffic, and they might get it from, maybe they're a publisher and they publish a lot of content, and they just have a lot of people who come to them organically, is what we call it. They earn their traffic rather than pay for it. So if you come across a company that has a large amount of traffic but not the spend, all they need is the will to want to spend, because the problem that they're probably having is they know they're getting a lot of traffic, but they're having trouble converting that traffic into a monetization event. They're having trouble making revenue from it. So where our technology really helps is, and I'll just give you an example. So one of our clients is golf.com here in the United States. Anybody here play golf? I love golf. All right, so they generate about 8 million visitors per month in organic traffic. They earn that traffic because they publish so many articles on how to fix your backswing, or how to putt straight, or the best reviews for the new tailor-made golf clubs, right? So they generate a lot of content, and people go to their website to read the articles and to learn more about products and that sort of thing. But their problem was that they weren't making money off of all of that content and all of that traffic. So they built a shopping cart that, of course, sold the tailor-made golf clubs and the golf shoes and the towels and the shirts and the pants and everything else. And they had a shopping cart on one side and they had all this traffic on the other, but they were willing to spend in ads to get that traffic that's organic, that's coming to read articles, to get them into the shopping cart. So that's where we came in. Our technology was then put on their website. We were able to find the people that were exhibiting the behavior of those that were interested in buying the golf clubs, or buying the apparel, buying the golf shirt and the pants and that sort of thing. So when we noticed that behavior, then we would put the ads in front of just those people and get them into the shopping cart and convert them.
That's excellent.
Excellent. I think what I'd like to jump in now and say that everyone needs to understand that we're probably having what we would call an 8-stage process in what we do for the sales. And the first thing that we want to do is to be starting with warm leads. In other words, people we know. And that's important for us. And they'll be in a business that qualifies for what we want to do. And once we do that, we then want to have them bring us a decision maker into the room, because we can have tons of conversations with people who say yes, 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 yes. But if they're not a decision maker, then the time can be just wasted or misspent. And then that person would then bring the internal stakeholders into the room. In other words, the decision maker still has to get the people who are vested in that to make a decision. And at that point, we qualify the lead. In other words, we say, look, we think we've got the right people, they've got the right outcome, we qualify it, we use some of the forms and that have come through to qualify that lead. And it is that point, we then start to do the handover to Rudy or ATS, whatever we have qualified. And then once that introduction is made, the presentation's made, we go through a proof of concept, which you've talked about, because it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be a bit. It can be a bit of this, a bit of that. The calculus example was a good one of that. The same, Ted gave an example about starting in the thin wedge. Once the proof of concept is done, it is about then converting that to a full-scale operation. The proof of concept normally takes about 90 days. Then it becomes a full contract, and that goes. And then it's our job as the 8th stage is to on-sell, resell, keep that going for years, because as Ted mentioned right at the start, if you've sold a particular service and keep on selling, you could still be operating that same client in 10 or 15 years' time, getting ongoing revenue the whole time. So that's the process
Peter,
that we're putting
just
together.
So you know, our persistency for holding clients is over 90% over the last 30 years, over 90%. So
what that does for us is it shows how cumulative the business can be.
Absolutely. And
like
Rudy also brought
ahead.
a point up. Rudy also brought a point up. They were kind of going back and forth between two things. I want to, I guess, make it clear that above the standard, we increase profits and reduce costs. That's what we do. And so Rudy is one of those channels that we have for that. So it's really the same thing. And the no cost assessment, when you read that, Rudy's tech is actually on that as well. So it's all the same thing. And the reason we're going through two things, Rudy's tech and also the NCA, is because as you're talking to companies, I just really want to make it clear that we can help most companies out there in some way, shape, or form reduce costs and increase profits. That's really the bottom line, and that's ROI for you.
And just like what you just said, Jim, and just what you were saying, Peter, it's keeping it simple. In the core folder, there's one page for the lead in with the AI, and there's one page for the lead in with the no-cost assessment. It's that simple, just one page each.
And
And
that's
so
the best way
if
to
you
do it.
have any questions, on that, Peter, holler, please. But right in the core folder, you'll find everything you pretty much need. 27058, the AI, it's just a lot of case studies and content that you can post on social media, and some more of the process about what to say in a script if you're talking to somebody. And then folder 44, I know you have that, Peter, as well, a lot. That is just our social media and marketing. It provides mammoth case studies and all kinds of stuff. And it's overall, it isn't just, it's overall. So when we go into a company, we look at everything. And so Rudy's technology and what he has developed is so simple, but so awesome and so profitable, and nobody else has it. Nobody. Yep. And it's the perfect timing. It's ground floor. Even though Rudy started developing this almost 16 years ago, this is just now starting to go to the market in massive ways with us doing this together. So we have an amazing opportunity. So whatever you need, Peter, you please let us know. Karen, Andrew, any of you, we're here to help to make it very simple.
And I do think we have a couple of questions. I think Paul and also Kevin had a question. I know Paul's been trying.
And Paul and Kevin, please step in.
Yeah, I'll kick off first. I have two questions. Sorry. I have two questions here. First question is, we are moving into the Asia Pacific market for the ATS products, and you've been here a long time as well, Ted and Rudy and all that. As we go down the rungs of company, how do you manage languages? Because we are working in a very diverse, from Japan, Korean, Thai, Indonesian, Chinese, Mandarin, you name it, Tagalog, whatever languages, in terms of communicating or providing the materials to the relevant people. All those, even though it's a one-pager, but it does help sometimes because some of the senior decision makers are not so conversant in business English. Okay. Second question is.
Can I answer that first question real quick?
Sure. Go ahead.
Paul, is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So first question is, most of what we've done is always in English, and if it has to be converted, then that person takes that and converts it, that one pager, that half pager, keeping it simple, into the language. But most of the time we've done it like in the Philippines, all English, Vietnam, English, Malaysia. A lot of times we meet clients right in Kuala Lumpur and do everything there in English. And so you're right, Paul, I've had lots of experience where I didn't understand, like we trained Viet Petro and their higher executives in Vietnam. And it was a tough training, no doubt about it. So we brought in an interpreter, they brought an interpreter, and that helped a lot. And it's helped Viet Petro to become a global strategic type of oil and gas. So it's been all English for us. And then if you as a partner want to convert that into the language, keeping it real simple, then you do that. But we found, especially in the last 5 years, that English has done very well, not just in Asia, but also all over the globe, because English has become the dominant language. And I know that's not for everybody, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yep. Okay, that's a good, fair answer. Yeah, I think you're right. But we're just like trying to cover bases to see how we're going to communicate better. Second question. It's a sensitive one. I'm not sure whether it's I'm walking on hot coals. Come November 3rd, right? The whole of USA will be making a big decision. Has there been any work done in that area, either by Rudy or Ted or anyone, helping any of the person involved getting themselves into the race and coming on top as a winner? No names mentioned. Don't know which sites everyone is on, but that is a lot of money spent there, I'm sure. A lot of money available. People lobbying for different, and they all spend tons of money on Facebook, Google ads, and you name it. And so
that's
it's a sensitive one.
That's a leading question, because you've got an election coming up in Malaysia. Come on.
Well, it's not only in Malaysia, it's Australia. Every state has an election. Prime ministers, every 3 prime ministers in a year. New Zealand is coming up, the whole of Asia Pac, and suddenly money appears when they don't have budgets for anything else.
I wonder where it came from. I wonder where. As I always tell people, follow the money trail, and you shall find out.
So I'm cautious of being sensitive about this question.
In answer to that, we've created our company to be very global in nature over the last 30 years. And so our model continues on regardless of what happens or doesn't happen. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I will say this, a lot of money being spent on both sides. And I have an understanding of who I think will win. And the news does not share what's really going on. The news, about 90% of it is garbage. And I've worked with the government. I've worked with 15 federal agencies internally. My family, my great uncle was a spy for several nations. My dad worked in a black hole when he was alive, created technologies that never existed for the Boeing company. I had people follow me, literally, for many years while he was alive. So all I know is this: the right people will do the right things with the right reasons for the right outcomes. So that's my answer. Jim, Rudy, do you want to say anything there?
No,
Yes,
I think Rudy, go ahead.
I have a particular example that I think will amuse Paul. Okay, Paul, you asked the question, so I'm going to tell you. All right. A certain entity, a publisher here in the United States that is right-leaning, approached us for a particular purpose, and that is they are using our technology to identify the people on their publisher website. And this publisher website gets about 25 million visitors a month. And during an election year like this, that can burst up to about 65 million visitors per month. And they are using our technology to identify people that are on their site, but live in a particular area that needs to have more votes for their candidate. And I'll leave it at that.
It's amazing, isn't it? What you can target.
Yeah. So
Wow.
what's happening is that. So what's happening is that, so if we can show them that, because they don't, the website is right-leaning, so they're all going to vote that way. However, there are a lot of people that just come and read articles on this publisher site, but they live in, let's say, and the Americans here will understand, but they live in a rural area in Pennsylvania, which is a battleground state, they call it. Well, they want to make sure that those people in those battleground states get out to vote, so the ads go directly to the people in the battleground states.
Any other questions, Paul?
Amazing technology.
Paul, that answers your question. Yes.
Kevin. Let's go to Kevin.
Your favorite politician can use it in Malaysia, okay?
Okay, Paul, we leave you with the first project, okay, Paul? All right, now let's get over to Kevin. I'm sure Kevin has some burning questions.
No, it's okay. I just want to clarify a few things for myself. So first of all, thanks for all the introduction. It's a great product, and I believe that there's a lot of things that we can do. Just for my experiences from the past, when I sell a solution or reach out to my clients in Southeast Asia, as long as it's not an international company globally represented, the ad spend is actually pretty limited. So for me, when I came from the semiconductor business, all my people even don't bother about the social media as long as they have a web presence. And when they do a CES exhibition, then they are just boosting some of the campaign. Other than that, the budget spent is always very, very limited. And I mean, this is a $15 billion company, yet they are not spending at least a $50,000 or more in that. So if we are now going for more the local ones, definitely the ad spend is even lesser than it is, except this is where you said is government related solution or international. So how we are going to tackle that part. And this leads also to the other question. When I'm reaching out, usually they will ask, okay, what can your solution do? Like you say, the lead generation, AI. Right now we have the COVID situation. Everyone is now going into all the trainings of digital marketing. I joined my company as well. I'm helping them out as a trainer for digital marketing services. The most popular is SEO marketing. So with that said, your solution can actually disrupt the entire SEO market, but there are a lot of SMEs coming in. I know in Germany, where I come from, 68% of the entire GDP is contributed by the SMEs. Even Malaysia, over 65% of all the GDP generated there, minus the gray zone, is also contributed by the SMEs. How we are going to handle all this kind of leads or client. And because your solution is very unique, and you can trace and track all the website and all the traffic. Usually you can easily come up with a portfolio to say, oh, for Singapore or for Malaysia, and these are the typical website that has millions and millions of traffic. So you can share with us this information. First of all, we can use this data to show to the locals, hey, this is how other competitors or other clients are doing that in the region. So you should look into it. Secondly, it is also a part for our way of working. Oh, they actually have a lot of traffic in their website in Singapore or for their company in that region. We can use this information to go to the client and say, hello, knock, knock, knock. Can we help you? We actually identify a great traffic volume in your website. How much do you spend actually? And then we will continue to ask the typical standard questions that Ted has shared with us. Then we are also able to grow more in a focused, directed way rather than shooting with a shotgun into the country, due to the fact most of the people we might not even able to reach out because they're all working from home and there's nobody in the offices.
Rudy, could you maybe define high traffic more? How many hits on that website?
Yeah,
Sure.
so yeah, please.
All right, Kevin, great question. No, and the first part of that question is great. Thank you for the background too. It really helps us understand. So when we're talking about a website that doesn't have a lot of traffic, let's just think about this technology. It needs an amount of data to be able to separate people from bots. So there has to be, that's why the digital ad spend we say has to be 30,000 or more, because that's just an amount of data. That's an amount of traffic that this technology is able to use. So when a website isn't spending that much, but they do have a lot of organic traffic, they do have a lot of traffic coming to the site, as long as that's over 20,000 or so visits a month, it doesn't have to be millions or anything. We've even worked with websites that have as low as 15,000 visits a month. As long as there's a good bit of traffic and the will to want to convert it into some kind of event or some kind of conversion event, then they're willing to spend the money to convert that organic traffic into the conversion event. So it's really about having enough traffic and the will to spend money to get them to convert. We can help them with that.
Yeah. So with that said, do we have any examples that we can show? Because, for instance, now everyone is struggling. I need more traffic on my website. How I'm going to do that? Because I'm struggling with my business due to COVID. I need to now find a new channel to do so. So even if the budget, they need to understand, okay, how you're going to address this for them to generate more sales. I think with an example, it will help a lot. for them to give a try and figure out, okay, this is $50,000. At the end of the day, I can cross-sell, upsell all my portfolio instead of going through a shop, now going online and increase it by 30-40%. Then I think we just need to tell them this spending will generate additional revenue that covered it easily.
Kevin, that's a great question. I'm just going to share my screen real quick.
Yes.
And you'll see right here, this is the AI folder. Gives contents, gives a training for the contents as our general presentation, specific and identify presentation. And then we go into several case studies right here. They're very in-depth. And so I know Andrew and Peter and Kieran have this, and so they'll put that together. So there's lots of examples in here. There's an overall case study. I mean, there's so much material in here that drives it home to make it simple. So that should be helpful too as well. Just wanted to show you that.
And we will, Kevin, we will share all of that. We didn't want to overload you guys with too much reading from the start without getting an overview of the product. And we will we will quickly start to ramp up the information we're sharing along with kind of presentations and things like that to you guys now.
Okay.
But it was really about getting an overview of what the product is so that you guys understood what all that reading is now.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much.
It'll give you context for what the material you get now has a context. You've heard from the gurus in the United States, and when we send you the stuff, you'll understand what it means because Ted talks in numbers. 270856, because he knows all his forms so well, and you'll understand what he's talking about when you see it.
Well, I think I'd like to make a comment. Kevin, that was such a very great question. Now, Rudy, I like to pose this back to you because you guys are coming from a developed country. Now, we are looking at Asia Pacific with countries that are developing. That's why the first point that Kevin mentioned was about companies that's using SEO. Now, Rudy, you started as an SEO genius. Your business was about SEO genius. Perhaps you can come back from that angle now and really flash back to those early years you started where SEO was just getting traction. Now, this is where Asia is. It's not as developed as what it is in America with people spending $50,000 to $100,000 a month on digital marketing, but we are not saying that will not improve. So there is a paradigm shift. That is a shift now that we are going to go into the market and share some liberating truth about how business can be done in a smarter way. And really, everyone is talking about digital transformation. So the market is ready. What we want to do is to take it in small bites on how to actually start it. And this is where we are trying to synthesize the whole thing, right? Synthesizing the whole thing is really analyzing and pulling back, tearing out everything and pulling back everything together with just one simple sales pitch. Now, the other thing that this, the real experienced people here, they're high-level executive people. They have done a lot of sales pitch before, and they actually are in contact with companies now. So one thing that will really help is to really not only just have the product knowledge, but really have the skills to connect immediately. Really knowing the needs in the industry and actually within a very short time, knowing what to say. Another question that's constantly posed to me as well is how do we start? How do we talk to companies? What do we do? Rudy, maybe you can mention a little bit about SEO. I think it will be very helpful. All right. Now, though you don't call it SEO Genius AI anymore, you're calling it My Identity, which we understand why it is so important to track behavior. But the other thing you can also mention is the little example that you shared with us today about the Google lady. I'm not sure whether her name was Tracy or whatever. Now that would be interesting because that will open the eyes of the people here to understand it's not really that difficult. Can I pass it back to you?
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity and for allowing me to remember my younger days of being an SEO person. Just very quickly, we actually still operate that SEO consultancy. In fact, you can go and see what we're still doing at seomarketing.com. We own and operate that domain and have done so for over 20 years. That domain actually was purchased in 2005, but we've been performing what's now called SEO. When I first started doing this back in 1997, the term SEO wasn't even created yet. I sold it as something, I called it search engine traffic, because that's just what, I didn't have time to think of another fancy name because I had to develop this very quickly for a 2 o'clock phone call the next day. So since then, we've continued that consultancy, and it was about 4.5 years ago that we developed Mydentify because the industry needed it. So I completely understand, and my team here that is 12 people here in the United States, and we have an additional 4 in Pune, India, that perform all of the overflow work that we have. For the answer, I think, is you wanted me to think about how, to Kevin's question, you know, for companies who are mostly doing SEO or are, you know, they have organic traffic and they need something to help them get from where they are now to the next stage. We have done this for several companies that they really liked Mydentify and they wanted to do it, and they just felt like, well, you know, we're not there yet. We have the money to spend, but we just aren't there yet. And we want to grow into something like Mydentify. We have helped companies like this. Now, my only concern about it is we will have to lean a bit more on Lake, who's the local president there, for his guidance, and your guidance as well, Peter and Andrew. We will need to lean on your guidance in communication and in execution as well. My teams are mostly, of course, English driven, American English at that. But we do have additional vendors and contractors that we've worked with, actually in the Philippines. So we are very well versed at providing an affordable service that can help clients get from where they are to the next stage, so that we can build them up to be able to run Google and Facebook ad campaigns that take advantage of Mydentify.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got 5 minutes before we have to close. I'm already late for my next meeting, but this is important. So any concluding comments? Because what we'll have following on from this is we'll have a session that is between the affiliate partners to go through and debrief this, ask any questions and follow up, particularly around how we're going to support you to the next stages from there. But you know, from my viewpoint, we've covered a lot of information today, and it's been well done. Thank you to Ted and Rudy, and thanks for the questions. But unless there's something specific right now that we need to cover, I think we can just about be wrapping up.
Okay, let me wrap up, Peter. I think today's presentation by Ted and Rudy, they are really interesting. And I think our market in the Asia Pacific region, definitely there's a need for it, all right? Especially where ATS is concerned, when on cost saving and all that, and especially during this period of time, and everyone is back to work after the respective countries call it differently, but in Malaysia, after the movement control order, where we was where we had to stay home for 3 months, and then now everyone is back to work, and to start the business, to make sure that things run and all that, there's a need to actually see how to save costs and all that, whether it's for small companies or big companies. So where ATS is concerned, I'm sure there is a market for it. It's a matter of how we approach these companies moving forward. But where Rudy is concerned, I think what you have got is a very interesting solution, all right? But I think where you are concerned, Rudy, for our region, there's a need to actually not just, be too strict in the sense that, okay, if I see a company, your company must have 30,000 or 50,000 in digital ad spend. I think we need to look at the whole picture of that company and what is their ad spend. in that regards for the year? What is the ad budget for that year itself? And convince them to maybe shift a little bit or shift 30 or 40% into digital itself. Because if you just go in and say that, hey, look, I have this product for you, this solution for you, but you must, have a minimum of 30,000 US dollar, which in Malaysian ringgit, is equivalent to 120,000. All right. So a lot of companies won't have that, but they have an overall budget of maybe 2 million for print and all that. So it's telling them, hey, you have 2 million ringgit for print. How about just transferring another 300,000 out of that 2 million and give it a try at digital on the digital board itself and see what happens. So I think it's a matter of talking to them and coming up with.
I think that's our issue here.
That's a great idea, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's what we will do from our side of things. I think Rudy and Ted and Jim have really just given us some guidelines around capacity to spend. It's not a hard and fast rule, and that's something we're going to go into in our further conversations on here, how we bring this to the Asian market and how we sell that in. But I haven't gotten from the guys that it is a hard and fast. If they don't have 50,000 per month to spend, then that's forget them. I think that's a discussion we'll have offline beyond this call, I think.
Other than that, I think it's been an interesting day, all right? And I'm sure, we look forward to more coming forth, especially from Andrew and Peter. So thank you very much, guys.
Biping, thank you so much for that summary. It was a beautiful summary, and also for the guys in America. Really, your input today has been great, excellent, and really it's awesome to finally really let the East meet the West, and really we are so proud to be here and thankful. Ted, for your time and your team.
Excellent.
Yes, I'd like to say this Tony here. Thank you, Rudy. I think it's great, and thank you, Peter and Andrew, for hosting. It's very informative what I learned today, so I can use it too. Thank you so much.
Now, just before you go, guys,
thank you, everybody.
Just the Asian people just want to mention that Paul have accidentally for an invite, so he has asked me to redress that. Our next meeting will be next Wednesday. We have our third training, and we will use debrief by Paul. And thank you guys for your time, and Rudy also for your thoughts. I was really looking forward to the other example that I wanted you to share is about the Google experience that you have. I thought that was really helpful. You can give a minute on that, please, would you?
I don't have time.
We've gone well over time.
Okay, all right, no problem. By another time.
We'll save it for next time.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Guys.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.